For our TikTok and Instagram fans, please visit greatdayradio.com to listen to the full discussion of this podcast. If you are interested in advertising on any of our social media platforms, podcast, or website, visit greatdayradio.com. Click on advertising for more information. Thank you for your support. Let's start the show.
You are listening to the People Station on greatdayradio.com.
Good morning, America. Welcome to another Great Day Radio Mental Health Podcast show. For this episode, we are going to discuss race relations. Here's something that might surprise you. Studies show that by 2050, over 30% of Americans will identify as multiracial, completely reshaping how we think about identity and culture in this country.
First, when you reached out to me to brainstorm discussion points for this subject, it hit me that there is not enough talk about growing up interracial. Me, being Black, Filipino, and white, I catch hell from all sides.
I am with you. Even though there is not much Asian in my DNA, I am always getting people approaching me asking, what Asian am I? It is rather hilarious, I must say. The fact that I am always in a position where people want me to explain who I am is fascinating.
So, to your point, Mikey, the statistic is striking. How do you think this demographic shift is already affecting our understanding of race and identity?
Well, the research really highlights how interracial individuals are navigating multiple cultural identities in ways we've never seen before. It's fascinating because they're essentially creating new cultural frameworks that go beyond traditional categories.
And I imagine those frameworks are constantly evolving. I read this article the other day that mentioned something interesting about microaggressions, how they manifest in subtle but impactful ways.
That's exactly what caught my attention. You know how these microaggressions often show up as seemingly innocent questions like, what are you? Or assumptions about someone's background. Research shows that experiencing just 3 such interactions per day can significantly increase stress levels and impact mental health.
Oh, wow. I had no idea about those specific impacts. What about the psychological effects of having to choose between different aspects of identity?
Well, studies from the American Psychological Association show that this pressure to choose often leads to what they call cultural homelessness, a feeling of not fully belonging anywhere. But here's what's interesting. About 65% of interracial individuals report that this experience actually enhanced their ability to adapt to different cultural contexts. From an interracial person myself, I can relate.
That's fascinating how something challenging can become a source of strength. The article also touched on support networks, too.
Right. And recent research shows that interracial individuals with strong support networks are 3 times more likely to report positive self-identity outcomes. These communities aren't just providing emotional support. They're actively helping people develop what sociologists call integrated cultural competence.
Speaking of cultural competence, what do you think about interracial representation in media?
Well, the latest media diversity report shows that while interracial representation has increased by 24% in the last 5 years, it's still only at about 8% of mainstream media content. But social media is really changing the game. There's been this explosion of online communities and content creators sharing their experiences.
That shift in the digital space seems to be creating new opportunities for dialogue and understanding.
Exactly. And you know what's really interesting? Research from the Pew Research Center shows that social media platforms have become the primary space where 72% of young interracial Americans explore and express their cultural identity.
The way technology is reshaping these conversations is remarkable. But what about the challenges that still persist?
Well, recent studies indicate that about 55% of interracial individuals still report experiencing some form of discrimination at least monthly. But here's the hopeful part. The same research shows that younger generations are significantly more likely to challenge these biases and advocate for change.
That generational shift seems crucial for moving the conversation forward.
It really is. And what's particularly encouraging is how this shift is affecting institutional change. More organizations are implementing cultural competency training, and studies show that companies with diverse leadership teams are 35% more likely to have above-average financial returns.
So these changes aren't just socially important, they're having real economic impacts too.
Exactly. And looking ahead, demographic projections suggest this trend will only accelerate. By 2040, experts predict that the concept of racial majority will become obsolete in many urban areas, fundamentally changing how we think about identity and belonging.
That's going to require some significant adjustments in how we approach everything from education to healthcare.
Well, you're right about that. Research shows that medical schools are already adapting their curricula to address health disparities that specifically affect interracial populations. And educational institutions are developing new frameworks for understanding and supporting multiracial student experiences.
It sounds like we're at a real turning point in how we understand and talk about race and identity in America.
That's right. And you know what really stands out to me? The way these changes are pushing us toward a more nuanced understanding of human identity. The research suggests that this evolution in how we think about race and culture might be one of the most significant social shifts of the 21st century.
Well, this conversation has certainly given me a lot to think about regarding where we're headed as a society.
Indeed, and as we wrap up, it's worth noting that these changes aren't just affecting how we think about race. They're fundamentally reshaping what it means to be American. The data suggests we're moving toward a future where multiple identities aren't just accepted, but recognized as a vital part of our collective strength.
Okay, folks, thank you for being a supporter of our podcast show. While interracial individuals in America face distinct challenges related to racism and identity, they are also at the forefront of bridging cultural divides. By embracing their complex identities and advocating for inclusivity, they contribute to a richer, more nuanced understanding of race and culture. As society continues to evolve, these experiences provide valuable insights into the collective pursuit of equity and acceptance. If you would like to add to this discussion, I encourage you to leave a comment in any of our social media platforms or visit greatdayradio.com, click on Let's Talk at the top of the page, and leave a 30-second message or two. Please share the love if this podcast show touched you so we can continue the talk about these topics.
Thank you for listening to greatdayradio.com. Are you ready to win some cool prizes and awesome giveaways? If so, you need to visit greatdayradio.com. Click on Join Our Contest and enter your email to get our latest newsletter that will update on the latest contest, giveaways, and new podcast shows. Also, with our successful podcast, many have asked if we would offer courses on many of the topics we discuss. Stay locked in as we welcome our all-new Great Day Radio Boot Camp. In it, you will have access to lessons that will help you achieve goals such as learning how to make a living as a mobile DJ, learning how to start and monetize your very own podcast show. These are just a couple of the topics. So stay connected and get ready to level up for self-improvement. Again, please visit greatdayradio.com and sign up for our newsletter. Get ready for our next episode.
If you would like to support our podcast and the creative content we provide, there are several ways you can help support us. For example, you sponsor an ad by visiting greatdayradio.com, click on advertising, or you can support our advertisers you see on our website. And lastly, you can click on the Support the Show in the description of the podcast you are listening to donate using our Cash App, such as Venmo, or search Great Day Radio on your Venmo account. Thank you for sharing the love. Peace out, my party peeps.
You are listening to the best podcast from the USA to the UK on greatdayradio.com.